2 perfect items as well. How about this? Fighting onto the Brutal. Just got a Black Cleaver Eclipse. This is a pretty weak Ambessa.
Oh my god. Oh my god. The solo follow from Tarzan.
And having that dominus. Keeper's verdict. He's going to try to golf Tien away. Swing and a miss here by the Poppy, and it's going to cost him a whole lot. Off to the teleport into Swayon as well. Assassinating the enemy AD carry. Viper's deleted. Wenbo goes over the magical journey to try to finish off even more kills as Knight lands to scatter the weak but does not find anything with it. Cream.
Flash away from the undertow to make sure, but we came back to the fight. Perukia is almost dead. TP coming down. Shun's just going to chase him down. The Comet Spear to the back. And now Wenbo with the TP coming in to settle the odds. ZDZ comes in a little bit later, doesn't have the extra shield, but Wenbo does. Wenbo finds himself a 3rd kill. He's looking for even more. He's got a Ragnarok and Olaf, but the Blade Caller makes that one null and void. A double kill comes through for Viper, and Shun is still alive after he kicked off this fight. Stand United does not stand nothing for EDG. One fight, and they are down 3,000 gold.
Miasma does get away, petrifying Yays, swing and a miss from Care. And now will they look for the fight on the backside? Way going to get exhausted, he flashes back away, does manage to avoid the CC, cut off by another beautiful pillar from Guan, and that'll be enough for Care to take the first kill of the fight. Quickness dives forward, gets on a Rookie. Rookie now stuck in melee range with both carries, no chance to be able to fight that one out. The Shy is sent to the resurrection, but Care is moving through member after member, twin bang after twin bang. A triple kill to him already, make it a quadra kill. Can they hunt down the Penta? Hoya is gonna have to hold down Mako, but he is going to be able to do that, no problem. A Penta kill to Care.
Melting very quickly though. It's at 5,000 HP. Should have to get in there quick if they want to fly. Here comes the Cataclysm. It will be stolen away by the Jarvan, and Shun's able to live by flashing away. On goes in with the ultimatum. They found out Cream. Will there be enough follow-up? Yes, there will. The Ahri is down. And Viper is face tanking Swayon with the Guardian Angel still being available for Tien. Flag and Drag goes forward. Tien flashes over the wall, and Swayon's able to pop off. Force Guardian Angel out of Viper, and Shun might be next. Bounce over the wall. Swayon's still going to be the target. Flag and Drag connects, but this Rumble is too damn strong. Going golden, forcing the GA and allowing for Jackie Love to clean up the rest of the fight. The Flag and Drag goes wide.
about how Tyler won. So he's been doing this thing where when ranked 5s are open on the weekends, he plays with like other streamers. He played with Kadeem on his team like last weekend, and Kadeem
the GOAT.
did on Riven, by the way, did 500 damage in a 30-minute game, and Tyler was like, yo, those numbers are crazy, Kadeem. And everyone was like, oh my god, this is so funny. Kadeem is like the streamer that you watch when you want to see bad gameplay. He did 300 less damage than an LPL pro player!
Wait, hold up now. Kadeem has one of the sickest flashes of all time.
That is true. The Camille ultimate is
the Camille ult flash was sexy. It is Knight versus Tarzan. I think this has been the battle, not just this year, but even last year when we had AL as a top 2 team in the league. Tarzan versus Knight, but Tarzan's team was not as good as Knight's was, and that has, I think, been true for most of Knight's career. Usually All-Pro is separated in between, you know, hey, you have our Ascend All-Pro team, and here's our Nirvana All-Pro team. We're going to pick, we will have the pool of every player available in the LPL. If they have played more than 2 games in the split this year, they will be eligible for this. In my heart, I would want Zwayon to be my All-Pro top laner. However, I'm going to do something that I have not felt in a long time. My All-Pro top laner is going to be Mr. Hoya. He's been Mr. Consistent.
Respectable.
Welcome back, everybody, to another day of LPL action over here on the LPL English Twitch and YouTube channels. I'm Yanni, that's Bloxer. We had some really interesting games yesterday. We had the Toilet Bowl go down. We also had a big match between Top Esports and AL. We had EDG getting their first series win. Really great stuff to start the week with Bloxer. Now we're starting to get into the real meat and potatoes. We've got a matchup tonight that will determine playoff lives. JDG versus Thundertalk.
Absolutely, it will. Really important matchup for both of these teams. Interesting how close they are really in the standings, right? Only a couple games separating out these two, and it's really impactful who gets this win. Thundertalk, they're just looking to get out of these bottom 2 spots. They really want to get themselves into that playoffs proper, not bother with the play-ins, have 2 lives start in the upper bracket. Whereas for JDG, they're looking to win out. They're looking to get themselves as close to those top couple of spots as possible. The top 2 is out of reach for them at this point, but they could still be very, very close to it, potentially even 3rd place.
I think they're a little too far away for that block. So we got 3 games left.
Yeah.
You try to do math on cast, my friend, and unfortunately, there's a reason why you don't
Yeah.
do math on cast.
Yeah.
But JDG can get to that top 4. It is not going to be an easy task by any means. But speaking of teams that have a very difficult task, Thunder Talk down there, sitting at 3 and 8, really need a win here to try and make it into this top 6. But if you can see it, their game differential between them and LGD is also pretty wide. LGD is at a -3 and Thunder Talk's at a -7, so a lot of catching up to do for this Thunder Talk squad, but they can make it happen, Bloxer.
Absolutely they can, right? They've got themselves a pretty interesting week of games coming up right here as well. They still have got to play this matchup versus JDG, obviously. Then they've got EDG, then they've got LGD. So they are playing up against some of the bottom teams that we have here. And that means that there is a real chance for them to be able to pick up those wins. As you said, right, the game differential is pretty rough, but if they're able to get some 2-0s, things can start pulling back pretty quickly. And it's all to play for when it comes to this playoff bracket, right? As we've been talking about, the most important thing for teams really is to get themselves into those top couple of spots, right? That gets you a bye. That's going to be out of reach of the teams we've got here today. Then you don't want to be in 7th or 8th. You don't want to deal with those play-ins teams because Ninjas in Pajamas and Invictus Gaming, they're both looking pretty good and pretty scary to have to play against.
No doubt about it. And IP has been very clean down there, and IG starting to really form back together. And you know, we'll see what happens. Again, if you're in that bottom half, you end up in the play-ins. You only get 1 life, which is why it's so important for Thunder Talk to really get the ball rolling here. As you know, Bloxer, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but you could take a look at this Thunder Talk roster. This team is pretty good.
Yeah, they've actually been playing surprisingly well, right? Coming into this group ascend, I wasn't sure how much faith I really had in this squad to be able to make it work, but things have been looking pretty good overall. I've been particularly impressed by what we've been seeing out of Jinhao in the jungle. Arn Feather as well has had some really fun moments to be able to play around. To be honest, they've all had pretty fun moments, but they haven't quite been able to get as many wins as the team would have overall wanted.
Yeah, but the good news is this is a young team, a good young core, that this is a true test for them to see what these players are worth, what kind of metal they have. I really want to see the solo laners come up big today. You mentioned the earlier schedule, JDG coming up, but these other games are very winnable. If you start this week with a win over JDG, the sky is the limit for this last week in particular. You could theoretically see Thunder Talk get a 3-0. We could see them go with a 2-1 and maybe usurp LGD on that last spot. But it's all up to how they're going to play. And with the way that these solo laners can be a bit volatile, I think starting off on the right foot is going to be the best way to go for these this squad.
Absolutely. This is a team that rides momentum really hard, but when they begin to falter, things can continue to go wrong. When you look at these 3 teams that they have in their final sprint in this split, it feels like JDG should be the most difficult matchup of them all, the hardest team really to play against, but I don't even necessarily feel that that's true here. JDG have also shown us some pretty big inconsistencies. EDG just picking up a win versus WE, maybe they're going to be able to build on that momentum, and as you said, right, that LGD matchup may well be the most important matchup of them all. If things work out in an interesting way for the viewership perspective, then hopefully that last matchup versus LGD and Thunder Talk is going to be the most important decider for who gets play-ins and who has to play up against the 3rd best team in Group Ascend, because let's make no mistake about it, as much as the play-ins is bad, getting 6th place doesn't make your life particularly easy when it gets to the playoffs.
It is almost guaranteed death, Bloxer, but the good news is Thunder Talk have a veteran steady hand that may be able to get them through the darkness here. It's on. What you see here is the stat sheet not looking too great, right? But the veteran presence, his value is going to come from the in-game comms, the things out of game. You'd like to see a little bit more on the Rift, and maybe he can catch fire, get a nice little stretch for himself. It would be a big boon to Thunder Talk's chances to try and get to not only that 6th spot, but also try to win a playoff series.
Absolutely. If they are able to just get themselves into the playoffs, right, winning a series would be brilliant for them right here, and I think it's potentially a possibility, right, as we've been talking about. If they're in the play-ins, you only have single elimination if you make it into the playoffs. You start down in the loser's bracket. But if they're able to get themselves 2 chances, yeah, maybe you end up getting knocked out in the first round, but I think they could definitely turn things around. I think a team like Thunder Talk would really benefit from having a couple swings at it when you get into the playoffs. And Arn is going to be a big, big part of that. He has looked, I'd say, really good. Yes, like you said, the stats don't look great, but the eye test, he's been doing his absolute best to be able to carry his team through. He's been put in some pretty rough spots overall, and the meta, as much as you can carry on ADC, hasn't necessarily lent itself to them being the solo carriers in a lot of games, right? He's got a lot of Jhin performances, a lot of Civirs. That needs a lot of setup from the people around him, but if they're able to give him that setup, he's been paying it back.
The meta is starting to shift a little bit more toward these traditional AD carries, so maybe, just maybe, we will see On have an opportunity to smurf Thunder Talk to the upper echelons of the LPL. Let's go ahead and talk about our other team for the day, JDG, a team that has been marred by inconsistency, but is the same team that you saw from the beginning of the year till now, sans the 3rd game of last week's series. It's Xiaoshu, Junja, Hongqiu, Gala, and Vampire.
Yeah, we're not going to get Xiaofeng back in again. He had 1 game. Things are, not quite what they would have wanted overall.
Yeah, who knows?
Yes, true. Things could still turn around, but it is indeed going to be Junja joining us on the Rift for at least the first game here today. We'll see if things do swap around as we get later on into this series. And it's been a really interesting time of it out of these guys, right? Some really high highs and some really low lows, and I think that inconsistency is sort of the main thing we're going to be looking at for this squad.
Shout out the LPL main broadcast for the roller coaster. You can see from the end of July to last week's games, we going all the way down. Then we go up a little bit, then we go down, and now we have this big ascent in the middle where you got wins over WE and BLG teams that are top 4 teams right now, Bloxer. And then you couldn't get the job done against AL. That's okay, but that loss to LGD, very, very damaging for JDG.
Incredibly, right? And this is the thing with this win-loss, right? They're trying desperately at this point to just keep themselves above 500, get themselves back into at least a neutral kind of position. And they're just not winning versus the teams you expect them to win versus, and they're losing in places where you're like, hang on, what are you doing? What is going on in this situation? As you said, right, the LGD loss is the real just rough one. If they'd have lost to AL but beaten BLG, beaten LGD, cool, wonderful, fantastic. That's a perfectly reasonable week for them to have had, but that just isn't the case. This is another matchup right here where, as much as we think Thunder Talk are looking pretty good, pretty fun, have some moments to them, this is a win you should be getting as JDG, and if they're not able to do that, that's really going to be raising questions right as we're getting into the crucial bit with playoffs.
Yeah, they just need to lock themselves in. And in fairness to JDG, even if they were consistently playing well together, Thunder Talk would still be a tough assignment. This is a team that, as we mentioned, has really high highs and really low lows. But you could say the same for JDG, which honestly goes to show, Bloxer, that we have no idea who's going to win this match, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's put them in a really interesting spot where, I don't have a clear expectation coming in. Now, clear expectations don't necessarily tell you anything. We expected EDG to lose yesterday, and that didn't end up happening, but the reason we're particularly back and forth on this one is because of the solo lanes out of JDG. Hongqiu has been really, really good. His highs have been incredibly high. Honestly, some of the best mid lane play that we've gotten to see during this regular season. But the lows are egregious. Just horrible misplays, over-pushing in lanes, getting himself caught out, solo dying in situations. Same kind of thing has been happening to Xiaoshu in the top lane as well, where he's just dying randomly, but also finding himself solo kills and great team fights, good setups for the rest of the squad later on. There is no consistency out of these solo lanes, and it's making it really hard for the rest of the team to play.
Sometimes you just have the consistency of baby poop. It is what it is. But the good news is, because they have these glimmers, if they can all put it together at once, Bloxer, you have your solo laners firing on all cylinders. Junja's on one of these supportive junglers moving around. Gala's able to, weak side if he has to, while Vampire moves, and then later on he becomes a big carry. That's a winning recipe for JDG. They just need to put it all together at once. It always feels like there's one ingredient missing, and is the reason why they are idiot sandwiches.
Exactly, and that ingredient missing has oftentimes been Hongqiu. he feels like he's really good in games in which the rest of the team are doing badly, and it's a reason that they're sticking around in games when things are going a bit wrong. But then when the whole rest of the team is firing on all cylinders, things are going well, all of a sudden things are going poorly for him, and it's such a confusing blend to watch. It just doesn't feel like he's quite able to get on the same page with the rest of the squad all the time, but whenever he is, whenever things are going well for the JDG solo laners, it has been looking really, really good, because Junji's been looking great, Gala's been playing very well, and Vampire I've been incredibly impressed with.
Yeah, we need to really see him roam around to flip these unsteady lanes on both sides, right? It feels like both supports are going to have such a key role in this particular series, because any roam can result in be like, yo, listen, we can kill this guy. You know, sometimes you'll get a roam off, you'll be like, hey, I'm on vision, they see me, they're gonna back off, things are great, I helped out my solo laner, but there are opportunities to be like, this guy's all the way up, let's just kill him. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, absolutely. There's just been a lot of different fun avenues to try to punish onto JDG, but also that JDG have been using to punish their opponents. One thing you cannot say about any matchup that JDG has been playing is that it's been boring. They have not been playing any standard of boring League of Legends. They love flinging themselves at their opponents. They like getting involved. Like I said, Vampire loves roaming around. And I think that's going to be really interesting into Thunder Talk, because Feather has been doing a lot of the same, right? As much as Arn has been a big carry here for Thunder Talk, I think Feather's been looking really good. There's been a lot of questions about this guy over time, but I really like the player. I think he looks particularly good in the current meta as well. A lot of aggressive, engaged supports that he's able to play, a lot of heavy roaming champions. And whenever he's getting his hands on one of those, things have been going pretty well overall for Thunder Talk.
We're here in Xi'an, home of Team WE, as we see the title cards for the players as they'll be entering soon. I like that you said that JDG really likes throwing themselves at the enemy team, because Thunder Talk likes doing that just as much. If there is ever a series that will encapsulate the tagline, crazy is our game, Bloxer, I think it's this one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to get some real explosivity coming out of both of these teams. And I love these walkouts. The hype video really is impressive. A little bit unfortunate, potentially, for the WE fans that, you know, they get to see their team in their home arena and immediately they lose to EDG.
That's tough.
Not quite what you would have wanted in that situation, but it has been really fun to be here so far. Like I said, aggressive, crazy gameplay is what we're looking for. None of that boring standard League of Legends. And a big part of that is going to be the picks we get out of the jungle. Expecting once again to get the heavy, ganking, aggressive looks. Give me those Neferis, those Lee Sins, those Nocturnes, any of those.
Also, did you see how grouped up they were?
Mm-hmm.
They were
on top of each other.
They were like back to back. Yeah, they were. Listen, if they play out their team fights like that, they're going to be in good shape today.
Pretty
They
good.
are trying to be synergistic out of game. If they could be synergistic in game, maybe they came out with that plan. Like, guys, we stick together out of game. We stick together in game. The walkout's such a vital part of the lifeblood of the LoL esports ecosystem. And I like that Thunder Talk took their time a little bit more than JDG. JDG is getting to everybody, but they are coming in with a more brisk pace. Thunder Talk was like every single person.
Yeah.
Gets a couple of moments of us.
Like JDG, they're just ready. They're wanting to move on. They've got themselves a little bit of a tough schedule coming up for them this week, right? TES as your next opponents is going to be a really interesting matchup. Could determine a lot of things, not just for JDG, of course, but Top Esports are still desperately in the hunt for one of those top two spots. The fact that right now we've got 9 wins apiece for all of our top 3 teams is really exciting. They've kind of separated themselves out, and again, means a lot down at the bottom of the standings too for that 6th place team that has to face whichever of those 3 don't make it through the bye.
And of course, JDG with a victory will lock a top 6 spot.
Yes.
Obviously want to be above 6, but that is very important to note. You never want to be in a spot where, you know, you're maybe on the outside looking in, or potential to be there. And you know, we expect that JDG should be able to get the job done there, but with their inconsistency, you never know. I did say last week that there is a world where JDG just absolutely tosses their cookies here in the final week, stumbles at the finish line, finds themselves in unfamiliar territory, which would be probably the most JDG thing to happen here in Split 3.
Absolutely. If JDG lose all 3 of their next game, of their next series, that would put them beneath the Thunder Talk if they're able to pick up a couple of victories, right? So they put you in a really rough spot, especially if you then don't have that head-to-head available to you either. And if it's some O2s as well, things could go really wrong. So for JDG, a 2-0 here is the best chance they're going to get of having the 4th or the 5th place seed, which, as we've been talking about, right, is kind of the best spot that you're really looking for. 3rd is out of reach of these teams, not something that you're really going to be able to get to. So the next most important thing right here is securing yourself 5th place or 6th place. Thunder Talk, obviously, most important. Just get yourself out of that bottom 2 spots.
Yeah, with the way they have been playing, the 2 chances are going to be huge for this team if they happen to get it, because they've shown that they can beat anyone and also lose to anyone.
Yes.
And sometimes you just need that extra life if you're going to go up against some titans like BLG or Top Esports or AL if they happen to get that far. But, you know, we're putting the cart before the horse, Bloxer, as we're getting ready for these teams to get in the draft. I'm very excited to see what these teams are going to do with counter picks when they get them, because I think it is so important for our top laners to pick very low in the draft here toward the end, mostly because, as we mentioned, these lanes are so flippable, right? Even in 1v1s, you know, it feels like Keshi and Xiaoshu have never met a 1v1 that they didn't like. And, you know, you give that counter pick over, make sure they get the advantage, they dominate the lane, especially for a guy like Keshi who has had some trouble in lane.
Yeah, he's been really inconsistent in a lot of situations, but so has Yahoo. His solo laners really kind of across the board have been having some of their issues. And I really do like that you bring up the top lane getting into this draft, because in game number 2 of the last time these 2 teams faced, we had Keshi on the Gnar, and Xiaoshu sat on the Tristana in that situation. The Tristana came out massively on top in that game, was able to completely dominate. So there's a lot of really interesting counters, like you said, potentially out of these top laners. Immediately, JDG gonna get rid of the Olaf, clearly not interested in dealing with that one from Keshi, and for good reason, right? He's been pretty dominant on this pick.
Not in the slightest at all, Bloxer. So we're seeing the usual suspects band out of mid lane here, but Honkyu's pool runs very, very deep. We talk about all of his work on control mages and how good he is at the bird champions like Azir and Anivia. I know Azir caught some buffs recently. Not sure if that's going to be enough to actually push him in to the pro play meta once again, but even Honkyu's Twisted Fate has really come up as a sleeper pick that he's had a lot this year and has made a lot of really good plays on.
Yeah, but the champion pool, like you said, is an absolute ocean, as we are going to get the final couple of bans coming on through. So, in terms of first picks and stuff that's really solid and available, I was going to say, maybe you just want to go towards your jungle early on, but no, immediately slamming in the Ashe. So do Thunder Talk respond by picking themselves up the Seraphine? There's a reason that that duo has been so strong, and then I don't know that you want to give that over to Gala and Vampire.
Now the question is, if you take the Seraphine, what are you pairing up with it? Because you banned Ezreal, which is a pretty good one. You could always go for the Caitlyn to go for Supreme Poke that way, but you don't get the same effect that you get out of a Ashe Seraphine. That will be the lock-in for Thunder Talk. I am curious to see if JDG will respond with Emilio, which I think is Ashe's second best pairing and tends to play really, really well even when you take away a Seraphine.
Absolutely. Thunder Talk, though, still got their next pickup to go for. The junglers usually very high priority to come on through. I think the Nocturne could be fun in this situation. I would prefer something a little bit tankier when you've got the Seraphine already. The Pantheon fits into that a little bit more right here, and with the Jarvan band away, I think it's kind of the best pairing that you can go for. JDG recognizing that, though, going towards something a little bit more pick potential, and I do really like the Nocturne alongside an Ashe. Ashe obviously squishy, pretty easy to dive on top of, a lot harder when the lights have been turned off.
Really like the global presence that has come through. I do wonder if JDG will end up picking mid here and go for a Rise, take that away from Heru, and also kind of dominate the global presence, because it's something that Heru has picked with this Pantheon a lot to be able to just go wherever the team wants. Instead, we're going to see a Lulu get paired up with this Ashe. Not your typical pairing, but a pairing that will have solid defensive capabilities as well as decent offense.
Absolutely, and it looks like Thunder Talk are going to look to continue on with their global presence as well. The Rise lock-in would make a lot of sense, right? It has been Heru's most played champion by double the next best available pick for him. He's been really happy to be able to play this one, and alongside the Pantheon makes a lot of sense. So both of these junglers are going to be heavy on the roaming, And now it's going to be really interesting to see what we get out of these top laners. As you said, these top laners love to skirmish in the 1v1s, and with these supports more likely to just stay in their lanes, not looking to roam around anywhere near as much, it's going to be on these junglers to get involved in that top lane instead.
Really like this Anivia ban already coming through, trying to get rid of the zone control that that Hongq can put down. I wonder if he's going to catch a Twisted Fate ban for the last one. Bloxer, we've seen these teams save their top laners for later. I'm still curious to see what pick ThunderTalk is going to put at AD carry. Right now, I'm thinking that a Sivir could really do the job here. Give yourself a spell shield just in case you are under any threat from some of these Ash arrows, but also allow your Pantheon, your Ryze, and your unnamed top laner to really start sprinting at JDG later on in the game.
Yeah, something they've also gone towards has been the Jhin. They haven't minded pairing up the Jhin Seraphine. Now, I don't love it. I've not been such a fan in a lot of situations, and I think that the Jhin can be a bit of a risky pickup. It's more of that utility rather than bringing the full damage, but at the same time, you've got yourself a Ryze. If you have an aggressive top laner for Keshi, which often is the case as we've been talking about, then the Jhin can work alongside, and it does work pretty well with all of this global presence, right? Even if you don't rotate with the Jhin, you can at least chuck the curtain call down and be useful from quite a far range, so that might be a potential option for them. JDG, though, clearly slightly more worried about the shorter range, more bursty engage options, banning away the Corki. See if that final ban does also go down towards the ADC role. If they ban away something like the Sivir, I think that would make a lot of sense, as you were saying. No, they think that the Jhin was the bigger threat, so they take that one off the board.
I think that's understandable. I think if Seraphine just happens to catch you on the tip of that Q, then it becomes a little bit easier for you to get locked down, especially when you don't really have any extra mobility on the side of JDG. The final ban for ThunderTalk was that Galio. A Doctor and Galio combo is a pretty difficult one to deal with, so I think it's a pretty smart move here, as Hongq has caught so many bans. Okay, are we going to see APC Seraphine?
APC Seraphine.
It looks like that might be the case here. We'll see if they swap off. No, it is going to be AP carry Seraphine down for On. Okay, I'm less enthused about it, but Feather will get to roam.
I mean, and this is the joy, right, from JDG of being able to pick that Ashe first, is that you force your opponents into taking the Seraphine, otherwise you're just going to give away one of the premier bot lanes that we have, and now they've been forced into a situation where, yeah, things are looking a little bit weird overall for ThunderTalk. This is the first play that we are going to see of the Seraphine ADC, unless, of course, things do shift around for ThunderTalk. It does mean they've got a very strong teamfighting composition, right? You've got a lot of potential for these teamfights, especially if you hit a big encore now, it's going to be dealing even more damage. That could be pretty fun. Still, on the other side of things, JDG looking to round their composition out, grabbing the Rumble as well. And now they just need themselves something... Okay, I was going to say, I did not like the idea of the Akali right here, but the Twisted Fate, you highlighted it earlier, that's been something Hongq's been really fun with.
Listen, if you can control the globals, you will have a much easier time. Teams tend to disrespect them, so I am not surprised in the slightest that was the option for Hongq. And Bess is going to be the final lock-in here, going over to Keshi into this Rumble up top for Xiaoshu. Bloxer, I really like the pick potential of this ThunderTalk squad. Being able to just have Junhao move around and hop right on top of somebody. I'm trying to ignore the obvious in the room here. Okay, there we go. I was a little worried for a second that we were going to get something real weird.
Yeah.
But you do have the potential, especially at level 6. I think the Nautilus, while I don't really like it for the lane, obviously you're not going to have too much kill pressure. That depth charge is going to get a lot of value in this game. Rumble, Twisted Fate, Ashe, all champions that do not have any movement abilities. So they are going to be under a lot of siege this game, provided that the rest of ThunderTalk can get on top of them. Keshi's going to have the ball in his hands this game. They're really going to need him to carry this over the finish line.
Absolutely they are, but you say you really like the pick potential out of the ThunderTalk composition. I really like the pick potential out of the JDG composition as well. You still have a ton of threat. Those gold cards are going to be massive, and you're talking about squishier and immobile champions. Well, the Ryze and the Seraphine over on ThunderTalk's side also going to have to be very careful to not get jumped. Junji or Hongq, if they are playing well together, things could be really terrifying. I think the difference maker right here for JDG is going to be these Ashe arrows. Are the Enchanted Crystal arrows landing and getting those picks before these team fights even start? If so, JDG are going to be putting themselves in a really strong spot. The early game also going to be fascinating. We're going to have to track really carefully who's getting to level 6s first and what they're doing with them.
It's the most important thing when you got these big level 6 ultimates, Bloxers. We're on Summoner's Rift for game 1 of the first best of 3 series of the day. Remember, only 2 series on this fine Thursday morning. All right, not too bad. You know, it's still early, so they're getting the gyos out. Bloxer, I love that you mentioned the, waiting for level 6 here. I do feel like if Thunder Talk can just respect what JDG can do at level 6 and instead let the game come to them, right? Have this Pantheon maybe make a play early on, but once 6 happens, let your Rise farm up, let your Seraphine delete these waves, try to pick your spots. JDG's composition is really on a timer, and then if it goes late, you do have this Ashe, but I certainly favor having a Rise if you go that deep.
Very, very much so. However, you are asking Thunder Talk to play slow and controlled. Now, we've both watched enough Thunder Talk games this split to know that that's not necessarily what this team particularly wants to be doing, so it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, they're not exactly out of lockstep with everyone else on that one, and so it's going to be very interesting to see if they can hold their horses, if they can slow things down a little bit, let the game come to them, or if they're just going to look to push the pace of the game forwards as much as possible, like they do usually. As you said though, JDG, they do want to push the boat out. They want to be getting as involved as possible, as quickly as possible. Specifically, once that level 6 is ticked for the Nocturne and the Twisted Fate, I want to see these two getting involved in a different lane pretty much immediately. Yeah, the Rise can follow you, yeah, the Pantheon can potentially follow you, but you can get there a lot quicker with a Twisted Fate and with a Nocturne, as long as you get that push going in the mid lane and just have that quick first move.
One of the top picks for Junja this year, 17 games on this Nocturne. Does not have a positive win rate. He's sitting at 8 and 9, but with the way that some things go, it can be tough sometimes. Sometimes you are absolutely rolling teams over, and sometimes you're not. And we haven't seen the locked-in JDG squad since Split 1, really, when they were the ones to go to first stand along with BLG. And we've been waiting for them to maybe recapture that glory. Maybe with these slight meta changes, we'll see it. Maybe when Gala is able to get back to traditional AD carries, he will be the one to raise the team's floor. Is JDG going to attack Haru here for but a moment. It'll take a little bit of damage as Junhao shows up to try to protect his buddy. But right now, Junja's got the inside track. We're going to see some fighting in the bottom side as Gala gets bursted out. The flash from Feather, and he's the one to pick up first blood. And now we got to fight over the crab. Big smite going down as Junhao got it. The tether fears him up, but Junja finds the Thunder Talk bot lane, showing up to cause some problems. Now Honkyu taking a little bit of damage, trying to get away, and Thunder Talk will stop the press. A 1,000 gold lead early on for the young Thunder Talk team.
Everything working out right here for Thunder Talk, and that's just misplay right here out of JDG, not recognizing that they had no rights to be stepping up in these situations. Specifically, this bot lane play, not majorly surprised that it goes wrong the second that this hook lands. Gala, the stun lock right here, and that double beat drop is so miserable. I don't know why Junja goes for this crab though. He can see that his bot lane is getting aggressed upon. They were pushed up in that situation as well. He knew that he was going to get chased down through the mid lane, and still stepping into this situation is just a straight up mistake.
Yeah, I mean, he had the tether on Junhao. If he starts walking away, Junhao can't follow him or he's going to get feared. You just start walking toward Honkyu. And I think that you might be okay, but a bit of an early mistake from JDG. Not something that we have been too surprised by at times. One of the very underrated things that you may have not have noticed in the fight if you weren't paying close attention is while Vampire did polymorph on, when it comes to casters, they just cast their abilities.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, I can't auto attack Gala. Oh no.
Whoopsie. Exactly. And the fact that Arn's doing as much damage as he did early on is a really good sign for things to come, because the Seraphine in the APC role, you just are so used to seeing the amount of damage a Seraphine support does that it does a shocking amount of damage. It can really surprise with how much you're actually able to lay down, and this is not a composition that should be overall deficit in damage once we get later on into the game, right? Once your Rise is online, when your best is beginning to roll through, things can be looking pretty dang good. So Thunder Talk, as much as we were talking about letting the game come to them, I don't think that was overforcing in that situation. That was a really good punish on a mistake from JDG.
We did say that they needed to make the early plays happen pre-6. You know, we need to see Junhao get active. Well, he's got a kill in his ledger, certainly getting active, and, you know, you'll take the 2v2 kill on your side of Thunder Talk. So now, again, once Junja hits level 6, which is going to be coming up soon as they're looking for the scrap, this is the time I want to see Thunder Talk pump the brakes a little bit and try to be very selective with their opportunities to try and find fights.
Yeah, find the correct fights for them, not be over-aggressing too much, being very careful as these level 6s begin to come on through. Junhao going to be able to tick 6 right now. Junja still waiting on his. So let's see if they're going to be immediately proactive with this. Heru was potentially thinking about going towards the bot lane, but steps straight onto a ward that's about this chicken camp, and is just going to back things off. Obviously, we've got the first Drake available to us in the game as well. That should be slightly easier to pick up right here for Thunder Talk, just because they've had so much bot lane pressure throughout this game.
See JDG giving the proper respect over to Feather. Still can do a lot of damage early on. You know, you don't really talk too much about the damage that supports can provide, but whenever you've got 2 squishies down on the bottom side, it's always something that you can do. Hongkyu dropping a ward over on the Grub Pit. Thought maybe he might have a look at that top side, but Keshi is just a little bit too healthy for the moment.
He's sat at a perfectly reasonable amount of health right here, so just going to back things off. Junja does tick over to that level 6, so let's see. The first paranoia is so important. Immediately pings down towards the bottom lane.
Yeah, but guess who's here? Junhao is too. Here's the Twisted Fate ultimate coming down. One in Encore! Hitting 3 members, slowing the advance of JDG.
They can
and here
turn!
Comes Rise. Big hook onto Hongkyu. He's rooted up. He's gonna die shortly. And Junhao got to the backside, getting everybody low. It's time for Heru to deal big damage. Vampire under the turret, but he goes down himself. A stake through his heart. And Thunder Talk are running over JDG.
On, take a bow right there, my man. Holy, like you said, the Encore, beautiful, cuts that engage off. And the problem is, it was just so telegraphed. We could see that coming from a mile away. As we took into the top lane, hang on, big damage.
I think Xiaoshu will be fine, although Keshi's going to take a turn shot. That's a pretty good equalizer right on top of him. He's going to pop the Hex Drinker, so Keshi will be no worse for wear for the moment. We can already see a lot of members heading up to this top side for these grubs. Could be a dive too, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you've got everybody coming on up towards this camp. It's going to be fully spotted out right here, but I don't know that Thunder Talk's got any real threat. And we'll have a look back at this one. It's a super telegraphed play, right? You know exactly where everybody's coming in, and you can see Arn just gets far enough back to be able to land a beautiful Encore across multiple members. Gala doesn't actually get tagged up in it, but at this point in the game, the Ashe really doesn't deal that much damage, and I love the re-engage immediately, recognizing that, no, we can go back in. Heru has now arrived. We can turn things back around. The fact they're able to get 3 kills out of this play, turret play into the back pocket as well, just a huge injection of gold.
And this is something that we've chastised JDG for, is their over-aggression at times. And they have to know that, hey, the Seraphine is level 6. Maybe, just maybe, this play is not necessarily ours. Thunder Talk doing a great job of picking their spots, as we said. Might pick their spot here for this dragon. It'll be just Feather that will drive off the entirety of JDG, who are just too paralyzed with fear to do anything.
And they knew they were in a situation where things were beginning to come back off of cooldown. Right, Arn was going to have his Encore ready already. Also has got the Blackfire Torch in inventory at this point. Sun and Sky 2 for Junhao. Their opponents are just stronger, and it means that although it was just Feather in that situation, the collapse was coming on through, and they just didn't want to tangle.
Arn has this Blackfire Torch. He's so strong right now. If I'm Thunder Talk, I am now saying, hey, we are desperately trying to make plays. We're going to go on the aggression. You know, Hongkyu just finished his Rod of Ages on the other side. You don't care if you're Thunder Talk. That item doesn't really do a whole lot for you damage-wise to turn these fights, at least early on. So I want to see Junhao's ultimate come back up and try to make another play with On and Feather down here.
Absolutely, and it is going to be coming back up within the next 20 seconds or so. Thunder Talk as well, just going to use that priority that they have to step up to this dragon, and I don't think there's going to be anything that JDG can do. They do have ultis available if they want to go scrap, but Nobody's low health at this point from Thunder Talk. Heru needs to be careful.
He does walk up. He hits a gold card to the face. On and Feather looking to regroup with their mid-jungle duo, but everybody will be A-okay. And honestly, that's a big win for Thunder Talk. Any time that JDG is unable to make a play is just a plus play for Thunder Talk.
Yeah, like I said, there's a real timer coming through here. You've got some decent enough scaling options, of course, right? The Rumble's going to do plenty of damage later on into the game. Same thing with this Ashe, but really, you wanted to get things going as quickly as possible for JDG, and they did try. They tried with the proactivity, but just not recognizing that Thunder Talk's counter-gank angles, that their ability to turn plays back around was going to be far stronger than theirs. And now they're so far behind on these item breakpoints. I mean, Junja, now you've fallen behind the Pantheon. There's not really any point in the game where you get back ahead of this champion, bar some miracle plays and some big injections of gold.
And how are you going to get them if you can't make these plays? I think that Ikeshi has largely been very respectful. They haven't bothered him at all. And I think that if your top laner, who has been very flippy, goes unbothered and is going to carry a small lead in the top lane, but a lead nonetheless, you're going to be in good shape. Vampire trying to get some deep warding in just to be able to see the next time that Junhao shows up on the bottom side, which does lead me to believe that JDG might look for something in this bottom quadrant. A lot of pings down on the red buff as Junja wanted to make his way in. Heru will force him out.
Just gonna back away from this one. We've still got a while, obviously, until the next big objectives are coming on through. Okay, that's some pretty big damage. Like we said, right, with the Blackfire Torch, it is going to be a pretty rough lane to now be trying to deal with. First pick Ashe as well, you must remember. So this is something that JDG wanted. They would have known that the Seraphine was likely going to be taken away from them. Don't know that they would have expected it to go into the ADC role. And that might be what has sort of thrown them off a little bit in this situation. Things, though, have calmed back down. As we said, we kind of want Thunder Talk now to accelerate the pace of the game. Some pings heading towards the bottom lane could look for something if you're over-pushing, but at the moment, their only real option is going to be dives or just waiting for the next objectives to spawn.
Heru has upgraded his boots. So we have an arrow onto On, but no follow-up to be had by JDG because they saw Junhao, a well-timed move from the Thunder Talk jungler protecting his bot lane.
Indeed, and you can see just the pressure right here, struggling desperately to be able to clear these waves through. Tons of members of JDG just having to sit around on the bottom side of the map and wait. I mean, this is just Junja wasting time at this point. As much as it may look like, oh, Junhao's also kind of just sat around, this is all the pressure being put down. You are now keeping the rest of your lane so much safer.
All right, here comes Honku trying to show up top for Keshi here. Keshi going to give himself a shield, but he got gold carded. Now he's just going to go for it on Xiaoshu, and the 2v1 with the flash. He still has it in the back pocket.
Oh, wait, he lives.
As he let us know, he falls, but he ends up trading, and his jungler shows up to pick up the pieces. A 2-for-1 for Thunder Talk.
Really nicely played from Keshi. I thought he was just about going to be able to survive now. Paranoia into the mid lane. Junja does not have the damage here. He might even get this turned around.
Oh, there's that Encore, the extension, but it just barely misses Junja. He's lucky that that one did not clip him.
Absolutely, or he would have been dead. Hexplate or no. And things just going wrong here for JDG. Yeah, they're able to get one kill back onto Honku, but still costs him his life. Keshi's able to get rolling as well. He's now got the Eclipse to be playing around as well. And Thunder Talk extend this gold lead out to about 3,000.
Up. We have Herald in 50 seconds. We've got Dragon at about a minute. We've got Heru pushing on a side lane unabated right now with triple grubs. Exactly what you want. It's why it was such a nice, easy pickup for Thunder Talk. Your side laners really appreciate this, and they have been dominating this early game against a JDG team that has looked completely lost.
They have. I mean, this is JDG. I don't even know if lost is quite the right word for it, because JDG have been trying. They have been very clear in the direction they're going towards. It's just the wrong decisions. They know exactly the plays they're going for. Everybody's arriving to them on time, but not recognizing when their opponents are strong, when they're strong, when they really have the timers to be able to go towards things. And yeah, it is costing them dearly here, Yanni.
This is the case of when you go 0 for 9 shooting in basketball, and the old quote, you know, I'd rather go 0 for 30 than 0 for 9 because 0 for 9 means I stop shooting. JDG have stopped shooting in this game. At least Honku did try to make a hero play up top, and really did what he could, but Thunder Talk, they're moving like they were moving in the walkouts. Look where everybody is. The togetherness is great. Junhao getting hit by an arrow. The lights are going to go out. They're going to try to get on the backline. Gold card is going to land on the Seraphine, who gets cleansed.
Oh,
Big
the
knock-up,
equalizer.
and there's that equalizer. It's huge. Xiaoshu is burning Thunder Talk away, and JDG find a fight win, but guess who? It's Keshi coming through, but he's got to dash away because his entire team was dead. A wasted teleport, maybe a turn on a Honkyu. Pretty good hook by Feather, but he runs out of health, and now Keshi says it's go time, baby.
Keshi, my
Honkyu's
man.
the first to fall. Keshi is tanking everything up. Haru's now trying to frontline. He's forced to flash away, and Thunder Talk trying to salvage something out of what was a very poor fight.
Yeah, that was beautiful right here out of Zhao. Really nice to land that equalizer across multiple people. I mean, this is a pre-first item rumble, and it was still burning people alive. Like we said, just a little bit over-aggressive. This is JDG not stopping shooting, and I love just how much of a surrounding they have, how much of a flank they have. Honkyu into the backline. Xiaohu, watch this one. Equalizer across 3 members. It burns through An, burns through Junhao. Heru has to turn tail and run because of it. Maybe if Keshi's here a little bit earlier on, this play goes right for them, but he's way too late to the fight. He's at least able to get one back for the team.
And shout out Vampire as well for that wild growth right on top of that equalizer. Chef's kiss, so good. And this is what happens when Thunder Talk tries to fight without that Encore. Encore is such one of the strongest abilities in competitive play in League of Legends, in my opinion. And you know, when you see a Seraphine team fight with it and fight without it, it is night and day, as you literally saw there with that Nocturne ultimate. The good news for Thunder Talk is they still have map control, and they were able to take this Herald up top, even though they lost the second Dragon.
And just losing out onto one Dragon, not the end of the world, as we are just going to get a little bit of a hook here onto Vampire. Doesn't actually get hit with the double beat drop, so should be able to walk away.
They threw everything at him, but he's still alive. The public execution missed on the backline. Keshi in the 4v1 finds a kill, but he goes down. Equalizer going down as well, and Junhao in a 4v1 gets a kill for himself. He gets locked up, and it's a double kill for Honkyu, but somehow Thunder Talk go 2 for 2 in this play.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to keep pushing through in the top lane. Heru is a big chunk of this team's damage at the moment, and he's just not here. Pretty good sign, actually, for Thunder Talk that they're able to make this play happen. It all starts with trying to make a play catch onto Vampire. He's just about able to get away from the initial bit of engage. It baits Keshi in way too far to go for that kill. Still, at the back of this one, what was about a 3,000 gold lead for Thunder Talk, now down to only about 1.5k.
Thunder Talk do get a top lane turret on the other side. It was first turret of the game. It went over to Heru, who, you know, is down 1.5k, but that is misleading. We'll take a look at this replay.
Watch this from Arn.
And
if he lands this,
knock-up, yeah, it's off.
If he lands that, things are all good in this situation. Instead, I mean, the fact that Keshi's able to get himself a kill out of this one at all is crazy. This Ambessa play so far has been pretty strong. Junhao as well gets a kill, gets himself killed in this situation. The fact that it's a 4v5 though does work out in Thunder Talk's favor. And as we take stock of this game, we're nearly 20 minutes in, as we said, right, small gold lead going on for Thunder Talk. Pretty split in terms of where that gold is at. Junhao with the biggest lead over his opponent. Honkyu, though, absolutely rolling in this game. Very close to having that Rod of Ages fully stacked.
Rift getting used in the mid lane. It's going to be a mid lane tier 1 turret, and Thunder Talk going to look for a second charge here, getting some good damage there. Good call out, Bloxer, because once that Rod of Ages ticks over, Honkyu elected to go for that Lich Bane second, which means he is going to be stronger than the average Twisted Fate at this point in time. And you might see it pay off here, even with the boots. They throw everything at Heru, and it's Honkyu that claims a shutdown.
And hey, what was it we said about Honkyu, right? When the team is doing badly, Honkyu's doing good. And the team was doing pretty badly early on. Honkyu doing great right here. Fully stacked Rod of Ages coming through in just a minute or so. And has just been able to keep rolling. I love the fact that they bring the Ash Arrow down there too. Didn't need it in that situation, but better to throw everything at the opponent. Make sure you're going to be able to secure those kills. And now with Heru down, they're able to establish themselves a good push through the bottom lane. Mid lane in a pretty even state as well. All of this is going to be interesting setup as we've got the next Drake in less than a minute's time.
It's just not sustainable, Bloxer, to put the game on Honkyu's shoulders like this on a champion like Twisted Fate. If he's on any of his other picks, I'm all for it, but right now he has to be the solo carry. He has to be the bridge to get Gala to this late game, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure if that's going to be possible with the way that TF is built nowadays and not really doing a ton of damage with these wild cards. But we'll see. If there is a player who can do it on this pick, it's going to be either Apto or Honkyu, and one of these guys is currently playing at a professional and a pretty high level in this game at least.
Absolutely, just going to complete his rapid fire cannon as well, ticks over to that 10 stacks as 2, so everything set up for him. Honkyu is well and truly in a spot to be able to carry this game. The rest of Thunder Talk going to have to play it pretty carefully to make sure that that does not happen. Keshi, potentially the next target, is Junjia looking to get a pick onto him right here, and if Keshi goes down, that's just going to spell Baron.
Yeah, Junjia on the top side with this dragon coming up in about 5 seconds. I mean, Haru is ready and right on top of it. There are a lot of pings down because he's right on top of a ward, so you got to watch out for these globals. Gala's got that arrow. He's going to fire it. It's going to land on a feather, not exactly who you're looking for. So a big cooldown already out. But now here comes Twisted Fate along with Nocturne. Junhao in the back of the pit trying to tank up a lot of damage. He flashes away, but Haru's stuck around. He's got a flash. Encore lands onto a couple, and now it's a war on 2 fronts as Keshi gets into the middle of things again. It is starting to chop down JDG. It's a double kill for the Thunder Talk top laner, and Junhao's coming in over the top along with a realm warp from Haru. That means it's a triple kill for Keshi as they run roughshod over JDG, and there's pings on the Baron, Bloxer.
That should be Baron right here with 3 members dead, jungler included. Thunder Talk just find their team fight, and it looks to be an interesting spot for JDG. They're able to get on top of Haru. He has to flash back away over the pit wall. The dragon grabbed by JDG at least, but things looking great from Thunder Talk with the Baron in their inventories too.
Game fully back in Thunder Talk's hands. Once they hit those spikes and found a good fight, take a look at this replay again. You throw everything at the guy that doesn't take a lot of damage.
Exactly, you're trying for everything right here onto Junhao, who's able to get away. Haru has to flash back over the wall, but that's fine. And then the Encore, like I said, it's a fight on 2 fronts. Gala, throughout this team fight, he threw out a W? He threw out a W. Right, he arrows onto Feather to start things off, and he throws out 1 volley of arrows throughout that team fight. Not a sustainable position to be in when your ADC isn't able to hit a single auto attack.
Ebessa has been one of Keshi's best champions here in his rookie season, and he is really putting on a show. We said it was going to be up to these top laners. Who was going to flip the lane for them? The answer was nobody. So they've had to find their own ways to make an impact. And while Xiaoshu did have that one fight early on, most of these fights have been dominated by Keshi.
Keshi has been a madman throughout these fights as well. And I mean, Eclipse Shojin, right, he survives for a surprisingly long time in the backline, tons of healing to him. His Drinker as well, helping out in that situation. And the fact that he's able to just sit in the backline, make his presence known during these team fights has been massive. And with that triple kill as well, he is well on the way to potentially picking himself up a game MVP. Now, with the Baron Empowered minions, let's see what JDG can do to turn things back around. They're going to land an arrow immediately. Mikhail's away. This mid lane tier 2 will fall. The top lane tier 2 on a massive siege as well. And the gold lane continues to expand out.
Doing a pretty good job of syncing up those waves there, just forcing Honkyu up top, meaning that JDG didn't really have a way to answer. The siege power of Thunder Talk isn't exactly there when it comes to actually hitting the turrets, but when it comes to flinging spells, you know that An can throw them out there with the best of them, lands a double root along with an Encore on top of it. This might be the fight they want to go in. This is a damn good equalizer, but it doesn't matter. Everybody's locked up on the side of JDG.
There they go.
And it looks like Thunder Talk's going to be home. Hook goes down as well, and Gala and Honkyu can only watch as their team is torn apart.
Yeah, they're now going to be able to continue this siege on. Gala cannot step up in this situation. You're going to lose out onto this mid lane tier 3 tower. The inhibitor soon to follow as well. And just beautiful encores through. Arn kicks this game off with an encore down in the bottom lane on an aggressive JDG play. And he may well have just secured the victory for Thunder Talk 20 minutes later.
Top inhibitor turret is now under siege after the middle inhibitor has gone down. Respawn's going to be coming up in just a few moments, so Thunder Talk are not going to overstay their welcome. They will allow that top lane inhibitor to live, get off a clean recall. Baron expiring in 15 seconds, but I'm sure they'll be happy with a 5,000 gold Baron power play.
it's just been beautiful overall. Once they had proper control of this game, they really haven't looked back, and now you've got to the situation, right, where you've got the Rod of Ages and the Seraphs, and the Actualizer completed for Heru. He is pumping the damage at this point. Junhao and Keshi have both proven to be basically unkillable during these team fights, even with everything being thrown at them. As JDG, you've got to pick composition that needed to get things going early. They failed to do so, and now it's going to be really tough for them to turn things back around.
Now it's time for Thunder Talk to siege down in this bottom side. It's going to be On leading the way and really able to walk up with reckless abandon. Who is he supposed to be afraid of? He is not really squishy at this point in time. Not a whole lot of resistances, but that's an okay amount of HP, at least for a Seraphine, that is. JDG are completely pinned down.
And Siege just gonna keep on through even without the Baron, and all you need to do is keep the pressure up right here, peel back in 30 seconds time to go grab yourself the next Drake. It will only be the second Drake of the game for Thunder Talk if they're able to secure it. The likelihood we get to a soul in this game is going to be pretty low, but still, it's just another objective to be picking up, keeping away from JDG. More importantly, they're kind of just waiting to get that next Baron. As you said, their actual ability to hit towers, not very strong, so they are going to be reliant on the Baron to be able to win this game.
Nearly an 8,500 gold lead here at the 26-minute mark is outside of a couple of good fights from JDG. This has been all Thunder Talk as they're going to even up the Dragons at 2 apiece and try to keep JDG further and further away from any sort of way to try to flip this game back into their control. Does Thunder Talk look like they'll thought they were going to work near the top side for a second, but it looks like Haru's going to be on this recall here.
I mean, they are, and got to remember how important this matchup is for both of these teams. For Thunder Talk, getting out of that play-in spot is everything to them right now, and something you highlighted earlier that's worth remembering is that their game score has been really bad, right? They've been down by a lot. They're at -7 at the moment, whereas -3 is where LGD are at. Even if they end up losing this series, just picking up single wins here is so important to that game differential, which could end up being the deciding factor.
Now listen, sometimes you got to get 2-0s. Those are the best ones to get.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're going to try to make a play onto Keshi here. He's going to flash away, and they throw everything at this guy again. He's shielding up. He's going to drop that public use execution on the backside. Teleport's coming in. It's going to be On trying to save him. There's a flash encore landing onto a couple. Keshi's still alive, but guess who's not? JDG. Down goes the top laner. Down goes the mid laner, and I think down goes JDG as Thunder Talk push mid.
Yeah, they've got themselves the super minions pouring in through the mid lane to go and play around as well. We said they were going to need the Baron. That is not the case. JDG throw way too much at their opponents. You're even going to get a teleport back in from Keshi right here as he heads back to base. This should be it.
I don't think Gala and Vampire can do a damn thing to stop this one. Gala is 1, 2, and 4. He's got 3 items, sure, but I don't know. You're going to need 8 items to try to fight your way out of this one, and instead, he dies on the steps of his fountain, blood in the water. Vampire will live, but Thunder Talk will close out a very clean Game 1 here over JDG.
Barring one team fight where things go pretty well for JDG, where they get a magical equalizer and the decision-making out of Thunder Talk isn't quite there. Clean, like you said, out of Thunder Talk, but it wasn't necessarily that Thunder Talk were being proactive in that game. It wasn't necessarily that they had to be the main carries in any of that situation. They were doing an excellent job of just stopping whatever plays it was that JDG tried to make. It's JDG being overactive early on, finding bad team fights time and time again that leaves them in this really bad spot, and Thunder Talk ride it all the way home.
And it's always tough whenever you're in a scenario like that where you have this early game comp, you're like, hey, we have the level 6 buttons, let's go make a play, and then, oh, the first play did not work. We got absolutely erased off the map. Well, when do you make the second play, right? You're always wondering, like, is the same thing going to happen again? Bloxer, I'm looking down at the voting here, and I know that this, I think this is just a fan vote, but I'm very worried for Keshi's prospects to win player of the game. I think that Junhao certainly had a fantastic game himself, but I mean, this guy broke open these fights. Surely we have to give it over to him.
In multiple of the fights, and especially I'm looking at the fight that went wrong for Thunder Talk, Keshi was still massive in that fight. If he was able to get there a little bit earlier on, it could have been a completely different story. When he did get there, still was able to pick up a couple of kills for the squad and make sure it isn't a complete disaster of a team fight. I agree. I think that, you know, Keshi played himself a brilliant game, but so did Junhao. So did Arm. So did Feather. I think the only person that didn't have the best time of it overall was potentially Heru, and, you know, he did enough for the squad to not be a drag. He was still pumping the damage later on.
Yeah, got a lot of assists, had some really nice realm warps, showed up to some plays, dealt some damage. I mean, obviously got out damaged by Honkyu. Yeah, Honkyu had a lot of kills, but able to keep pace like that, and, you know, this damage chart overall is just a weird one. It is such a low damage chart with nobody getting over 20k in a game that had a lot of really explosive fights.
Yeah.
And you can see your stat lines here. Feather should have had more assists. That play bottom lane, he only got 1 assist for it, which is a damn shame because he did a whole lot in that play himself.
Oh yeah, he was massive in this one, and 100% kill participation here for Honkyu. Once again, Yanni, when the team is good, Honkyu is bad, and when the team is bad, Honkyu is good. And as you called it out beautifully, right? Maybe if he's on one of these more traditional carry champions, he could turn things around for the squad, but expecting him to be able to win a game for his team on the Twisted Fate, it's a great piece in an overall puzzle, but it is not going to be the solo carry, and you really did see it right here. Let's watch through these replays though, and really track how many of these fights are started by ThunderTalk and how many of them are started by JDG, because the majority of them are started by JDG right here, and a lot of the time it goes completely wrong. This is kind of the one team fight where things work out for JDG.
Yeah, it was a well-timed fear, which means that Junjo was able to stay alive and get that wild growth. And this was really the one fight that you thought, maybe ThunderTalk are going to toss the game here, especially because they get a little over eager here. That's a nice hook, but you know, Keshi just decides, hey, sunk cost fallacy, my support went down, I got to get something back for it.
I'm loving these cinematic replays of these big ultis coming on through, and this is one of the times that it did actually work out for them, right? You get the Enchanted Crystal Arrow land as well. This is one of the reasons Honkyu was able to get so far ahead, but everything else here, going in, blowing everything onto Junjia, that's
Thanks,
just
he
not
lost
gonna work
500
out for you.
HP. You got him, guys.
Hey, you got the Drake, right? Drake for all of your lives? Worth trade. Totally worth.
And this is a scenario where JDG is a little disconnected there. You know, Gala really couldn't get into that fight, and after that ultimate from Keshi, the fight kind of got flipped on its head, where all of a sudden Gala was on a very unsafe side. But this has been something that's been cropping up in some of JDG's games. At times, they're just not all there together, trying to deal damage to some of these targets.
Yeah.
It is very worrisome at times, and they really have to get on the same page, because we know that this team is a good team. They are good individual players. They have been a good team earlier in the year. They still have this skill. It's not like it was drained out of nowhere, but they have to figure something out, and fast. It's going to have to start here in Game 2.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like there were two separate issues going on in this game, right? Exactly what you're saying. Some of these fights, they're just not on the same page. In some of these other fights, they are absolutely on the same page, but wrong book, right? They are just not making the correct play whatsoever in that situation. So if that's happening to you, you know, you're not going in together, but when you are, you're going in for the wrong cause. That's not a recipe for success. Like I said, they're going to have to turn things around in this game number 2, because JDG, they are still, as we've been talking about, under threat of ending up in these bottom 3 spots if everything were to go wrong for them. They really don't want to have that happen.
There we go. There we go. Well-deserved MVP there for Keshi. His 4th MVP. A solid amount for a team that has now won 12 individual games, so he's taken home 33% of the share so far. Really earned every bit of it this game. Really nice to see this guy who, again, as we talked about earlier, can be a little flippy, but he provides a positive, exciting charge. Whenever you watch ThunderTalk, you look at these solo laners and you're like, this is fun. They're either going to interface off, or they're going to look really, really cool doing it, or they're going to have pop-off performances like that, Bloxer.
Yeah, it's from both of these top laners, both of these mid laners, right? They're going to or they're going to make the coolest play you've ever seen. It's what makes this matchup particularly exciting, and it really did deliver in game number 1. Hopefully we can get a bit more of a fight back from JDG, though, in game number 2.
Yep. Support the young talent of Thunder Talk. And you know who else you should support? The LPL English broadcast. And you can do that by becoming a coffee member. You know why? Because coffee is the best way to support the LPL English project, because the vast majority of your contributions go directly into the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a large bulk of it pays on-air talent like Bloxer and myself and our content creators. If you subscribe to our coffee, which will be linked in the Twitch chat and the YouTube chat, you too can unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our interviews at international events. With that, we're going to go ahead and take our first break of the night, and when we return, it'll be the Game 2 draft between Thunder Talk Gaming and Jindong Gaming. Welcome back, everybody, to the unofficial LPL English broadcast here on the LPL English Twitch and YouTube channels. Bloxer, we just saw Thunder Talk Gaming take JDG to school. JDG were ready. First day of school, things were looking great. And then they got absolutely smacked by the bully who didn't just take their lunch money, but ate their lunch money.
Yeah, absolutely. It really was domination right here out of Thunder Talk. One good fight for JDG gave us a little bit of hope that they might be able to give us a fight back, and nope, everything was slammed straight in their face. An MVP performance out of Keshi really carries them through on the Ambessa, but it really was just well played top to bottom. I mean, I keep coming back to those encores out of Arn. Really well played from him. On the champion, he hasn't shown us any proficiency on so far this split.
No, not at all. It was pretty interesting go at it. Bloxer, will we see a jungle swap?
I hope not.
I feel like if we did, we would know about it by now. But
surely,
anything could be on the table after what JDG has had to deal with. And I mean, this game was not good, man. I mean, that first play just did not go their way, and it sucks. But they stopped. They stopped trying to push their advantage. Yeah, they didn't have a clear, discernible strength anymore, but they still had these early game tools that you're supposed to use at that time. We didn't really have a way to get the rumble going or anything like that. And it just looked like the worst that we've seen of JDG throughout the split. For the good times we've seen a lot of bad, and you just chalk that one up to a lot of bad.
Absolutely. It's very much the situation where everything goes wrong, other than Honku having a pretty competent game for himself overall, but with the squad faltering around him, really nothing that could be done. I do not want the jungle swap, right? As you said, we would probably have heard about it by now, but we may well jump into the draft and see that we have now got Zhao Feng up to play. If he is in, then I really don't have high expectations out of JDG in this next game. I think if they stick with what they have and just change the game plan a little bit, I'm going to be far more confident in JDG, because they definitely have the skill, they definitely have the wherewithal to be able to play and win versus Thunder Talk. Everything just started going wrong for them in that previous game, and they never really found their footing again.
I do wonder how desperate you have to be as JDG to just tell Honku to be like, yo, play your best champions, right? Just get out there and do your thing. Grab an Aurora. Grab, even though his Azir has not been good this year, grab that.
Yeah.
He got a win on his Anivia recently. Maybe you grab that and just say, hey, we need you on something that can not only control the game like the Twisted Fate, but also have more of a damage-oriented impact in some of these team fights. Yeah. I'd really like to see them just tell him that and be like, hey, carry us, man, because he is the highest performer on this team right now. Yeah. And when your best performer is doing what they can to save the day, you just got to give them as many resources as possible to actually save the day.
Absolutely, and I don't just think a damage carry from him, right? Not just like a Lock or an Akali, but like you said, one of these champions that also has some big CC, some big playmaking potential on them as well. I wouldn't be mad about him ending up playing
Looks like
something
Junja to me, by the way.
Syndra. Yeah, it should be just Junja coming in here as well. Yeah, his Syndra, his Anivia, like you said, all of those I think are potentially really fun options. You can't just be looking at Honku though. The rest of the map's going to also have to step up. My eyes go down towards the bottom lane, right? That was a horrific performance out of Gala and Vampire, getting themselves all sorts of caught up. And that's Gala getting first pick, B1 right here for him with the Ashe, and it did nothing. There's multiple team fights where he wasn't able to auto-attack at all in that situation.
I mean, you died at level 2 to Seraphine Nautilus.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen. We talked about how, On's going to be able to delete these waves and Feather's going to roam. Feather just stayed there because he's like, we just kill these guys. Why would I move?
He could have roamed around. He could have left, but if the kills are going to keep walking into him, what's the point in that situation? Yeah, it was just overall really well executed on. I just also do not enjoy watching Vampire play these enchanters particularly. The Seraphine is his most picked up champ, he's played that a ton, but he looks so much better when he's allowed to play something like the Camille, like the Nautilus, like the Alistair, and yeah, the Nautilus was picked into him, right? He was pushed down onto the Lulu in this situation. He had a couple fun wild growths. That one, alongside the Equalizer that you highlighted, was really fun to see, but I want to see this guy on something he could be more proactive on, because clearly in that situation, Junjia wasn't going to do it for them.
Yeah, we talked about that this has to happen. Vampire's got to be on one of these mobile champions. So we'll see what they're going to opt into. JDG are going to have first pick once again. This time around, we'll take a look at the picks and bans here. A couple of deviations here. 3 junglers taken out to try to keep Junhao down, who, as we said, has been truly excellent this year. Maybe, just maybe, you might spend an all-pro vote on him as a third teamer. The guy leads Thunder Talk in kills. Junglers don't do that.
No.
Junglers don't lead their teams in kills.
No.
That is
it's your
highly
ADC,
impressive.
or maybe your mid laner, right, for leading in kills. The fact that it is going to be their jungler right here leading is incredible, and the amount of respect JDG are putting on his head is really strong. I love the idea of just taking the Ezreal right now. It takes it away from the Karma, obviously, but also just an incredibly strong pickup in and of itself. They've really enjoyed pairing it up alongside heavy aggression down in the bottom side whenever they have grabbed this one, but you can also go towards something like the Bard if you want it as another one of those heavy roaming options. That could be far later on in the draft, though. For right now, you do want to grab something for Junhao before the entire jungle pool gets banned away, and it is going to be the Vi as the lock-in, so potentially looking for a slightly more early game heavy gank focus.
We have banned a lot of Junja junglers, and now we're really starting to get down into the dregs here. Some of these lower tier junglers. Obviously, Xin Zhao is still a fine option, but you have to pick it up here or else you might not get it on the next go around. Instead, it is going to be a Maokai, which is a champion we've started to see crop up just a tad more, but we are heavily indexing into the Gala show right now.
Yeah, we are. We are very much saying, hey, Gala, you are going to be our main carry in this one, which I am not mad about seeing, right? As we talked about, we want to see more out of Gala. He had a pretty weak performance in that previous game. And Thunder Talk do indeed round out with the Bard. So heavy roaming, expecting to see Feather and Junhao together a lot. Obviously, you can leave Arn alone in this lane. Yeah, there's a lot of poke that can come through from a Syndra... from a Sivir and a Karma, but they're really not going to mind that in that situation. Arn can sit far enough back. So, on to the mid laners and the top laners in this situation. We saw a lot of top laners be moved around early on in these drafts, but haven't really seen them be too prioritized so far.
Yeah, we talked about setting a highlight on them in that first game, and while there still will be some sort of highlight around them, this time around it's got to be these junglers here and what early moves we're going to see, especially if you're on this Maokai as Junja. You really need to make an early impact, whether it's with your ultimate, whether it's getting off a cheeky gank. You know, Twisted Advance is one of the best gank tools in the game. If you're able to get your team ahead, get these solo lanes ahead, that's exactly what you're looking for. We did talk about it earlier. You mentioned this. Getting Vampire on a good roamer. I mean, Karma can roam around a little bit, but is still not the Vampire champion we expect.
No, indeed. And really interesting that we're going to see this Tristana ban right here. As I highlighted, last time these teams played, it was Tristana top lane for Xiaoshu. So I wonder if this is just going to be the Gnar that Keshi played in that game, got absolutely eviscerated by that Tristana. Maybe doesn't want to deal with that as the potential matchup. They can obviously leave this top lane pickup for the last pick. The Victor has been something that Thunder Talk have gone towards a lot less often that a Honkyu has. This is more of a takeaway from Honkyu than something that specifically Heru is great on, but I think it works well in this teamfight composition.
I hate Victor with Vi. I just hate it so much.
You just want something with more roam, more pairing?
I want something that at level 6 can kill somebody, and oftentimes it's a little difficult to do. Now, this combo is fine, the gravity well with the cease and desist, but a lot of times you don't necessarily have the damage to get you over the top. So that's just why I'm not really a fan of it. I like to see an aggressive mid-jungle duo come through there. Speaking of aggression, Olaf will be the lock-in here for Xiaoshu. The problem is, Thunder Talk, Keshi is going to have his pick on whatever the heck he wants to go into this Olaf. And Akali will get locked in to round out this JDG composition. They run at you all day, all the time. This should be really awesome to see.
Let's see what this final pickup is going to be. Obviously, the Camille has itself a pretty interesting time into the Olaf. I'd be surprised if that's what the lock-in right here is going to be.
Oh, there it is!
It is indeed going to be.
The reports of Camille's death were greatly exaggerated, Bloxer.
Yeah, we're going to keep the Camille in this situation, and it's not going to be in the support role for once, right? Camille's support has been all over our maps recently, but instead is going to be in the top side, and I like this. As much as you're not happy about the Victor alongside the Vi, I really like the Camille alongside the Vi. As well as having the Bard, you've got so much roaming potential alongside the jungle here out of Thunder Talk. You've got a composition that can play through the early stages of the game, but also has some really fun late game scaling options as well.
This is one of the tougher matchups for an Olaf to deal with,
Yeah.
at least in solo queue. And this is precisely why I avoid this lane, because I'd be really, really sad if I was Xiaoshu right now. So Keshi trying to take fate into his own hands here. We said that they were going to have to put the ball in his hands for game one. I thought it might be the junglers. Nope. After that pick, I am all aboard the Keshi train for him to try to take over this game, Bloxer. Camille is a pick that he's had a couple of times throughout his career, including his time on some youth teams. 8-3 in his career so far, looking to make it a nice 9-3 for 75% win rate.
Let's see if he's going to be able to do it. Looking over on the other side of things, JDG got a composition that mostly wants to just run straight at you later on in the game, obviously. You pop the on the hunt, all of a sudden Xiaoshu is running at you incredibly fast with this Olaf Trust trying to get into the backline to his advance as well. Going to be really important for JDG's ability to team fight, but they do have a couple of lack of tools for actually trying to keep Gala alive. We said this was going to be the Gala show. Not sure how well he's going to be able to play.
All he's going to be telling everybody else to charge when he drops his ultimate. Could be the final game of the first series of the day as Thunder Talk looking to clean up a clean 2-0. JDG looking to fight back and force game through. It's a lot better than the first one.
Yeah, it's a lot more energized right here. Some more fans probably pouring in as well as we get through this first series of the day. Let's have a look at whether or not we're going to be going to a game number 3. Obviously, we'll reiterate right here, incredibly important matchup for both of these teams. Thunder Talk don't want to deal with the play-ins. JDG want to get themselves away from the play-ins as well, but also want to secure themselves one of these top spots. An easier matchup when it comes to the first round of the playoffs. Lots to play for both of these squads.
And remember, we talked about the teams that these guys are going to face up against a little bit later. So hold that thought as Feather flashes forward on Gala just for some damage. Exhaust goes down, he flashes away, but now Vampire finds himself in a bit of a weird spot. He did hit level 2, so he was able to shield himself to get a little bit of extra movement speed. But if Thunder Talk can win this series against JDG, they could easily 3-0 this week. It is very, very doable. And if JDG lose this series to Thunder Talk, they could easily 0-3.
Yeah.
It would be an absolute disaster to see that happen. Could you imagine this team end up in the play-ins after that 4-game winning streak where we thought their season was revived?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, right, like the LPL graphic we saw earlier, the roller coaster has been a very true way of putting it right here. Just super up and down from this squad, and they just haven't been able to find that consistency. As you said, right, Thunder Talk, they've got themselves some easy matchups coming up, right? LGD and EDG as the next couple of games to be playing. They play the Group Nirvana teams from previously. So things may well be looking on the up here for Thunder Talk, and what a story that would be.
All right, here comes Junja. This is exactly what we said was needed here. Feather with a good Bard portal to... He did get tethered. He will have to run very quickly. He's got no flash. And this was a great first gank here from Junja. First blood goes over to him, and this is exactly what the doctor ordered for JDG.
Indeed, it is really nice to just see them instantly getting themselves onto the board. Good early ganks coming on through, and this is the proactivity they were trying for in the previous game, but in a situation in which they actually have the damage to make it stick. And I think what's going to make things a heck of a lot easier in this game is that Thunder Talk just don't have that same level of map presence with this composition. They're not going to be able to roam around to these plays anywhere near as quickly and cut them off, because the counter ganks were just killer to JDG in the previous game.
Keshi has a level advantage right now, but Xiaoshu is going to exhaust him. The hook shot to get away. Xiaoshu flashes forward. Keshi's got the ignite. Does not have the gumption to stand up to Xiaoshu.
And this was the counter pick, right? This was the R5 pickup coming on through out of Thunder Talk, and Keshi not paying it back to the squad. Now, we're going to see Junhao potentially go for some sort of gank or dive bot lane. He is going to be spot out just on the very end of that ward, and that should stop any aggression from actually coming on through.
First attempt from Junhao foiled. It's almost the exact opposite of what we saw here in Game 1. It's ThunderTalk, the ones trying to make some action happen, that have been unable to convert on that. So a good start for the JDG squad because of it. The only thing that JDG needs to knock off their checklist now is to disrupt Haru. Do what you can to make sure that this Victor doesn't have a free ride in the laning phase. There's so many times where you've got a late game scaling champion like that and they're able to just kind of hang out and do their thing. Honkyu really starting to put the pressure on. He wants him dead.
Absolutely, the squeeze is exactly what you need to be seeing right here. I like that roam from Honkyu as well. Get a little bit of vision down. It's going to work out. Okay, Keshi should be able to get away. Yeah, hookshot to get himself out. And that ward that was placed down by Honkyu is going to spot out onto Junhao if he goes and clears his camps.
Keshi, I don't think he has his hookshot. He is going to get this shield. Here goes
nice.
Flash! Q!
Boom.
Xiaoshu down! Keshi lives!
There we go, Junhao just about going to get there in time. Keshi living on a sliver of HP. Obviously, with the show in the top lane, it's going to be this early Drake going over to JDG for a composition with as much scaling that they have, as much early game pressure as they want to be putting on. That is still going to be pretty nice for JDG, still stabilizing in the top lane.
There's a huge breath of life into ThunderTalk early, but the better news about this is not only is it a dragon, but it is an ocean dragon, which is one of the best first dragons to get, especially in the laning phase. Helps you sustain up a little bit. You know, everybody really thinks of the first couple of dragons as afterthoughts, but that one seems to be one of the more impactful ones early.
Very, very much so. I really do like to see that picked up. Obviously, it's not quite a wet noodle fight up in the top lane, which is where the Ocean Drake can really, really shine, but still, with these aggressive top laners constantly dueling, that little bit of extra healing is going to be really nice for them to be getting through. As we continue to watch through on this early game, no massive advantages really forming back and forth at this point. A little bit of extra gold onto Junjie in the jungle, but really other than that, things pretty even.
The early haunting guys for Junja, as soon as he's able to pick up that Leandry's item, this is where the saplings get very annoying. He's able to infest ThunderTalk's jungle before they can get to an objective. It will really slow them up later. That's one thing that gonna have to keep an eye on as this game progresses. Both junglers are at level 6. We didn't see Junhao make a play after his ultimate was available, but did make that play a little bit earlier in the top side, so he does get a reprieve for that. But if you are a ThunderTalk fan, you want to see him getting active once again, making a play with cease and desist. Xiaoshu and Keshi can go at it again for a little bit, but with that hook shot, Keshi can always take a fight on his terms.
Yeah, and I mean, he's just constantly having to jump away though, right? You would have loved to have been able to play with that little bit of extra aggression coming on through, not being the case so far. Instead, you can see he's just going to have to use these honey fruit to keep himself nice and healthy. Both junglers been having a look for potential ganks in the past couple of minutes, but haven't really been able to find anything too aggressive to go towards. They both obviously do have those level 6s, and like you said, some of the best ganking 6s that you can have right here. So let's see who's going to be able to use that proactively first.
Both of these top laners also like to chop down these turrets, which means in 30 seconds, we might see a grub fight come through. It would make a pretty big impact. Look at Gala get a free trade onto On, taking him down to about half HP. As not getting the same advantages as you were in the last game, ThunderTalk, not in that bottom lane.
No, and it's been really interesting so far that Feather hasn't felt empowered to roam around. He's pretty much been stuck to Arn's side so far, and that is some of the joy that you can get out of the Sivir and the Karma. So much poke available between those two that it can be a bit tough to have your support actually walk away if you still want to be able to step up and hit onto the waves. Still is going to be the resets coming on through. No first items completed, of course. Nobody's been able to accelerate themselves that far ahead of the pace. As you said, the grub's going to be very important, and JDG roaming towards those first.
Yep, they've pushed up their vision line, they've moved their members up, but now we see pings going onto the top lane. Keshi desperately trying to get to the wall. He does get exhausted. He manages to get to his side of the turret. Junhao is here to try to save the day again, but this time it's Xiaoshu who gets the kill, and Junhao finds himself in a 3v1 and taken down by Akali. JDG, first to the play, first to the kills, and gonna pick up the grubs.
And that's just a miscommunication right here from ThunderTalk. You knew that the JDG members were roaming up towards the top side of the map, but Keshi, after his MVP performance in the previous game, just sticking around way too long, putting himself in a bad spot. And the bits of the composition out of ThunderTalk that needed to get going early on just simply have not been able to do so.
Now, the good news for Thunder Talk is it's not all doom and gloom. Keshi is going to get a Trinity Force, which is an incredibly strong item. On's also going to get a Trinity Force at some point. Looks like even Junhao is building toward a Trinity Force. This team is going to be really, really potent on that spike blocker.
Yeah, that first item spike is going to be absolutely massive for the squad and exactly what you are looking towards, right? They've got some late game scaling options, but really that first item power spike is going to be incredibly important. That's why it's unfortunate that they're down by about 1,400 gold. They would have wanted to hit that spike ahead of their opponents. Instead, you are going to be getting some of these first items through on the JDG members at around about the same time. Now, the items are not as potent, they're not going to be as strong at that first item spike, but it still is going to give them at least some hope of being able to fight back.
That's going to be that window I'm looking for, provided that Thunder Talk keep the game where it is right now or try to turn it a little bit further in their favor. If they fall further and further behind, the less potent the spike is because the more items that JDG will have. Junhao hanging out around the top side, just waiting for his camps to respawn as his cease and desist play was unsuccessful. Gala taken to about half HP in the blink of an eye as Vampire nowhere to be found near his AD carry, but will now begin to link back up with Gala's Honest, really just tagging him for free.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, that's a huge chunk of damage taken away. Obviously, it's in the area, so you're going to feel a little bit more empowered as the JDG bot lane to stick around in this situation. Oh, not quite going to be able to stop the recall coming through from Gala. So this is just going to be a wave pushed on in. Junjin doesn't feel like he can come and stop this from happening, though, and so some plating at least into the pockets of Thunder Talk. They're getting gold somewhere.
Keshi, nice flash there by Xiaoshu, and Keshi is in his own ultimatum, gets hit by the undertow, but Xiaoshu cannot continue. So, hey, he got the flash out. This is a win for Keshi.
Indeed it is. It makes him a little bit safer as he goes on forwards. Obviously he does have the Ignite as well, so with him resetting, able to teleport back into lane, going to get a full push on through. Over on the other side of the map, of course, JDG going to be able to pick themselves up their second Drake of the game, and now could potentially look for a gank here. Honky has run down.
Right on top of Gala, he's exhausted, flashes over the wall, but he's gone golden in a bad way. It's Feather picking up that kill. Now TP. It's another 3v3 as Junhao is getting chopped down by Honku and will not be able to survive. Honku maybe once on, he's forced to flash away as Haru loses Honku in the shroud.
Oh, the stun!
Feather, but the perfect execution gets him out. Keshi and Xiaoshu go at it. Keshi is a level up, but still can't stand up to Xiaoshu. We'll get a little bit of help from the blast cone, but it's JDG equalizing the fight downstairs.
Things continuing to go well for JDG. They haven't been able to expand this gold lead out any. It's still sat at exactly the same point that it was previously. Things are looking up for them. Like you said, really nice to just immediately engage right here onto Gala, but yeah, the golden just delays things that little bit, right? It gives enough time for Honky to get over to this play, not enough time for you to be able to fully reposition. Not exactly the tempo fight that you would have been looking for right here from Feather. And in the end, Honky, the fact he's able to survive right here just about with the perfect execution over the wall is good to see for JDG. They really are looking towards sending us to a game number 3.
Honku got out of that with his flash intact, by the way, so that's just a tough loss for Thunder Talk down there, not really getting anything for Honku going so deep, and in fact losing the flash of On, which was a very heads-up flash. Good news for Thunder Talk. Trinity Force is complete on Keshi and Junhao. Feather just throwing down some coffee over to Keshi, letting him heal up just a little bit. I think that's the Cafe Cuties Bard skin.
Very cute Bard skin. Although first time we're seeing it out of the bottom.
Wait, is it? No, that
right
might
here.
be T1. I'm sorry.
I have no clue.
I don't play a whole lot of Bard.
I do not remember what skin is what. I can barely remember the names of the Warwick skins at this point in my life. Keshi, yeah, big chunk of damage. But yeah, kind of the first time we've seen Feather out of his lane, actually feeling empowered enough to roam around, mostly because they've now brought On up into the mid lane. However, as we talked about, those spikes have now come through, right? That's going to be 3 Trinity Forces completed on the side of Thunder Talk. They've got the Blackfire Torch onto Haru as well, so he's beginning to do damage, although of course not going to be hitting that same level of power spike as the rest of them. Keshi potentially under threat, should be okay from ganks. Still needs to be careful about just getting taken out by Xiao, though. We've seen just how much he's been able to do.
Needs to be careful because every time Xiaoshu gives up ground, Keshi is going to get an auto attack on this turret and begin to whittle it down further and further. There's what, a plate and a half left compared to the 4 plates on the other side. Despite the fact that Xiaoshu is up in kills, I mean, Keshi is just dominating in CS right now and has been getting the better of Xiaoshu economically at the very least. Herald coming up in about 40 seconds, so this is where we're going to see this Thunder Talk squad and their Triple Trinity Force go to work. We'll see if JDG want to fight up against it. It'll be a tough decision for them to make. If I were them, I would avoid it.
Yeah, most likely going to be the option here is Keshi once again under threat. He's going to get dove.
Okay, he is going to get rooted. He still does have the Sextech ultimatum. He's exhausted. He's going to look for Junja, but he is going to go down as a play on the bottom side by Thunder Talk. No answer there. So JDG will work on this top side.
Yeah, and it's going to be this tower, or at least most of it, going on down to the side of Thunder Talk, so they're at least getting something back on the other side, but it is going to be first tower picked up for JDG as well. And you can see also push coming through in the mid lane too for JDG. They're really making it work across the entire map right here. Nice to see that they have been so proactive, getting the Rift Herald 2 on top of everything.
I'm curious, Bloxer, and I want to know your opinion on this. It appears that Thunder Talk just valued getting more gold into Heru as opposed to trying to fight with this Triple Trinity Force spike. They leave Keshi out for dead on the top side of the map. They give up the Herald. What do you think of that? Because I am very much against it. I think they should have fought.
I think you've got 3 champions right here who have hit their big power spikes, right, with the Trinity Force, massive injection of power into them, whereas you're going to be waiting a long time on this Victor. Now, I can understand wanting this Victor to be a big part of your game plan, and Heru, he's been a big part of wins when Thunder Talk have been able to find them, but the fact that you don't even try to fight in this situation, I think is really a mistake. You're just stepping past the bit of power that your composition has. Looking over on the other side of things, right, the Gunblade's coming on through, the Youngtail's arrows, these are all items that need a couple more to really get you online. You're allowing JDG to hit their power spikes by playing so slow.
The good news is On will have a further power spike once that tier item is completed, but that's going to take a little bit. And with a Dragon already up, JDG can put themselves on soul point, especially with Junhao showing top. So now they're going to go help out Keshi to take this top turret and be a split push force, but JDG on soul point, 16.5 minutes into this game. Bloxer, I think Thunder Talk are mismanaging this game.
Yeah, I think they have just sort of lost their nice, calm, collected approach that they had in the previous game, mainly because JDG just aren't making as many mistakes, right? As much as we were praising Thunder Talk in the previous one. Yeah, we were praising JDG and Thunder Talk in the previous one for not over-pushing their hand, right? Responding to the mistakes that JDG made, but in this game where JDG aren't making a ton of mistakes, Thunder Talk are not doing much to make the game happen for them. They're not being proactive about it. Still, the gold lead isn't egregious, right? And it isn't specifically sat on anybody, really. Not really reflected on in the items because of that. So it's not the end of the world for Thunder Talk. I'd like to see a bit more proactivity, but they're at least keeping it even.
Alright, Keshi's going to force the flash out of Xiaoshu, but that's about it for the moment. He does have a shutdown on him, as do the entire top side of JDG. Thunder Talk are going to need to try and force something here before JDG get a little too strong. As mentioned, the gold lead is really not crazy at this point in time, but the next objective is not going to be for 2 more minutes, and that's going to be Baron. So maybe Thunder Talk could look for a side lane play here with Tempered Fade or with Cease and Desist, because they have the tools, they just have been very gun-shy about using them.
I mean, we've barely seen any of these Cease and Desist coming out from Junhao at all. He's played a couple, right, in the top lane as counter ganks to try to save Keshi. Hasn't really been able to put many of his own on the board and make things happen. A composition with this many tools to roam around to get involved in other lanes, the fact that it hasn't really happened is incredibly worrying. And I mean, look at Gala now. He's going to have completed 2 items. He's getting to the point where he's beginning to hurt and really has just been under no threat to have to accelerate his game. He's been able to just sit and farm up as much as he wants to. Nearly 200 CS at this point.
Yeah, when we talk about allowing like a champion, a late game champion like a Victor to scale, the same goes for a Sivers. He has been unbothered.
Oh,
and somebody who has been bothered quite a bit is Keshi. He is going to stare at these roots coming right at him, but his buddy Feather might be able to save him for the moment. Hextech Ultimatum goes down. There's no further fight for JDG, although they might actually be able to find Feather here, who ends up on the wrong side of things, and it's Gala picking up the kill. Hogq wants a little bit more. He's under no threat as the Herald gets another crash, and JDG descending like a pack of wolves, chopping down this turret.
Yeah, they're going to be able to pick up 2 towers right here, and they even managed to teleport Hogq out into the mid lane to stop Arn from being able to pick that one up.
Flank.
Yeah, now they want to
Here
go
comes
for
the
this
Keshi
play.
TP. This is their chance if they want it, but Haru is taking a lot of damage because Gala is just not afraid to go right at him. On over on the side of the wall dealing with Hogq. This means Haru is dead, and the rest of ThunderTalk are just put on the opposite side of where they wanted to be.
Yeah, it's just another misplay right here out of ThunderTalk, thinking that maybe they had the potential turnaround. Junhao is going to have to go recall next to the Wolf Pit, or I guess take this Wolf Pit away and then run back to his base. Really just weird decision-making out of ThunderTalk on that one. Let's have a watch back at how this one works out. Keshi had just used his E, so he doesn't have his hook shot. He really needed this Tempered Fate to keep him alive for a second. Then he Hextech Ultimatums in to dodge out and jumps back away. Feather, though, needs to be running so much quicker than this. The second that he puts down that Temper Fate, really, he needed to have turned the back around and run away. Instead, he gets caught out, but that should be the end of this, right? You should be conceding this tower, everything, and then you walk out. But the attempt at the big flank, right, you can see it coming through from multiple members of ThunderTalk. But Hero just mistimes when he can go forwards and gets himself caught out. Without the Victor, you can't make that play happen.
The solo laners for ThunderTalk, as we mentioned about the solo laners of JDG, are always willing to put their bodies on the line for the team, and unfortunately for Haru, he frontlined a little too close to the sun. There's a big reason why that ThunderTalk were not able to bite back on that play, and if Keshi was able to make a big impact there, we could be talking about a different game. Instead, Bloxer, we're talking about a 4,000 gold lead for JDG. We're talking about Chemtech Soul coming up in about 30 seconds, which is so good for this team that benefits so much from these shields from Vampire. Xiaoshu himself is going to benefit so much from this, and it feels like ThunderTalk are priced into this fight.
Yeah, they are just kind of having to play in these fights, right? They're going to have to keep stepping up. They can't afford to just keep letting the game happen to them, but JDG in a great spot right here. 4,000 gold up. Teleport coming on in as well right now. And to bring this Olaf in. I don't know that you can step up to this one, but you can't afford to give away the soul.
We'll see if Junhao can steal it. Vampire is going to spot him out. 5,000 HP and dropping as ThunderTalk are trying to take purchase into this river, but you always have to deal with those pesky saplings. Meanwhile, Hogq on the backside, grabbing the attention of ThunderTalk in the pit. Junhao going in,
ooh,
steals it away.
Steals it.
Now can ThunderTalk get out? Guess what? Olaf's running right at you, and he's going to go over the wall. He took a magical journey. The Berserker going through, chopping down Haru too. On has to flash away. Keshi's out of there. ThunderTalk get the prize, but at the cost of 2 members of their team.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite going to be enough members going down for it to be the Baron right here for JDG, but they're going to be more than happy with this one. This is the joy of picking up the first 3 Drakes of the game. You force ThunderTalk to come play around you. Even if they do pick up one of these Drakes and you don't get the soul, still get a couple of kills, still get some gold value out of this one. However, I would have liked to see JDG play this one a little bit more aggressive right here onto Junhao. I think they totally could have afforded to. They really just sort of sat back, allowed Junhao to play this one. He sat in the pit for so long, split off from the rest of his team. Really nice play on the smite right here. Not quite going to be able to limp away as everybody else. As you said, magical journey is kind of crazy. At least you're able to get one back here.
You see that damage that Keshi did?
Yeah.
If he's able to get on Gala and Gala can't spell shield the precision protocol, I mean, that boy is dead.
And there's a real good chance of it. There's a real good chance of it. And you know, as much as we are criticizing ThunderTalk for playing out this game pretty slowly, they are beginning to get towards some more items that can help them out, that can make things work for them, right? Still desperately waiting. There we go. Liandry's just now going to be completed for Haru. Pretty dang slow to getting towards that second item for him. But at this point, Blackfire, Liandry's level 13, he's going to be doing some pretty decent damage if he's able to get an Arcane Storm down in the middle of a team fight.
But now ThunderTalk need to be the first to the objective in order to really maximize the value of this Victor that's on 2 items. And it is so hard to try to wade through. Again, we talk about those saplings. If you're not there first, you're going to take too much damage. I think Junja could be doing a bit better of a job to try to get those down and make sure that Thunder Talk are taking fights at 80% HP as opposed to full. Baron's still available. Not sure if JDG are going to go after it quite yet, but that is the phase of the game where they could just try to go after it. They are up 4,000 gold right now, Bloxer. A lot of that is in this mid lane. Honkyu at 2-1-1 has been rather quiet, but as we all know, Akali always has the opportunity to completely pop off in a team.
Absolutely. As long as he's able to get some backline access, things could look pretty good. And on the hunt, going to be popped. I think they're all fine, though. Yep, just about going to be able to sneak away.
Okay, stuns onto Xiaoshu. He's not going to take that magical journey, and this turret is very low. Thunder Talk really trying to get this turret. Desperately want to just put one more auto attack on it. Meanwhile, Keshi will head to a side lane, and if he's able to put down some split push pressure, you still have a lifeline to pull JDG around. Remember, they have not been perfect.
No. No, they have not. JDG have not shown us that they know how to play perfect League of Legends. Good enough to win, most certainly. As we see, just a couple camps being stolen away in this situation. 5,000 gold right now going to be the advantage at this point, and again, it is reflecting in the items in a couple different spots, really. The bot lane, the main thing at the moment, 3 items now going to be completed on this Sivir. Gala has kind of had the ideal Sivir game right here. Going to hit 300 CS very soon. Nobody was particularly putting pressure onto him. Exactly what you want as an ADC.
Yep. This is the dream life. Hasn't had to use his summoners or anything like that.
He's been chilling.
It's an 80 carries paradise, Bloxer. Minute and 15 seconds until this next dragon is up, and Thunder Talk are going to have to flip it one more time, it looks like, because they are not able to set up first. It is just a fact when you are down this much, as JDG can just kind of throw their weight around a little bit here. So we'll see what Thunder Talk's approach is going to look like. Honkyu is going to be up in this top lane, so look for him to try to teleport into this fight on the flank.
And it'd be interesting to see if anybody goes towards the Baron, tries to sneak one away. I don't think so. I think we're just going to get a bit of a straight-up fight around this objective. Junhao all the way top lane, though, so maybe something different coming on through. 30 seconds until he needs to be down in the bottom lane. He can take a reset and walk there. He's going to have enough time to be able to do that. In fact, everybody who was top just goes and takes those resets through. Like you said, though, all of the vision set up for JDG. There is basically nothing to play around for Thunder Talk other than Scuttle Crab. It's the only bit of vision they have around.
And they're so worried about these saplings that Keshi and Junhao both have Hex Strippers.
Yeah. Yeah. Just such a rough spot to be in right here for Thunder Talkers. Again, all the setup already here. Keshi, he does have the teleport available, though it looks like he's just going to try to walk his way down. They need to be pretty quick, though. You can burst through this Drake very fast as JDG.
Dragon has been started up. It's at 5,000 HP and getting lower. Ezreal's going to help out a little bit. And Junhao lying in wait, ready to go over the wall. Here come the roots. That Q's going to time out. Dragon's at 2,000 and it goes down. And here goes Honkyu and Haru goes down. Junhao going to be the next target with the perfect execution. The exhausted Honkyu, but he goes golden. Cancels out Keshi's ultimate. And Gala's bouncing blades with a beautiful flash means that Thunder Talk are just falling apart at the seams. It's Jindong Gaming finding 4 kills, finding that soul, and maybe finding a game 2 win.
That should be the game right here. Only a single member remaining. No Baron buff even going to be needed in this situation as they push straight through the mid lane. JDG gonna send us to a game number 3.
Tough for Thunder Talk if it is truly the end of this game, and it looks like it might be. Haru's coming up in 7 seconds. You really need these 2-0s when you are at a -7 game differential. JDG looking for the end, and with 10 seconds on multiple targets, it does not look like Haru will be able to stop this. The minions are still alive. The final turret will fall, and Jindong Gaming not up the series at 1 apiece.
Off the back of such an impressive game out of Thunder Talk, just disappointing from them in that one. You highlighted it brilliantly, Yanni. They were just not proactive at the point at which this composition needed to make things happen. I didn't hate the Victor so much, but I think you were right. He was just the wrong pick. It baited them into thinking, we can wait out, we can go late, we don't need to push the boat out at this point in the game, and it meant that they allowed the windows in which they were strong to just straight up pass them by.
Guys, you have triple Trinity Force, man. Why
use
are we
it.
not fighting at
Do
the next
something.
objective?
Yeah.
This is the exact problem that we had with JDG in Game 1, where their composition is strong at a certain point of the game, and their first play didn't go so well. So they were too afraid to actually do anything about it, and that just meant that they just kind of sat in the game and, you know, let their strong points pass them by. This is the exact same thing that Thunder Talk did this time around. And I can't believe they couldn't see in the moment that they were doing the same thing that JDG was in Game 1. It boggles my mind, Bloxer. There has to be a tongue lashing coming out from the coaching staff after that one. Like, guys, why are we so afraid? You've got Trinity Force. If you lose the fight, at least you go down swinging, right?
Yeah, they kind of went down with a whimper right there, and I think what really worries me for Thunder Talk going into this next game is that over the course of these 2 games, even with the dominant win that we saw from Thunder Talk in the first one, Thunder Talk haven't actually shown us very much proactivity. In the first game, they were punishing onto over-aggressive mistakes out of JDG, onto wrong map play that JDG was going for, macro errors, micro errors, all of that combined into Thunder Talk being able to just punish whenever JDG flung themselves at them. And in the second game, JDG didn't do that ineffectively, instead found good ganks, found good angles to go in, and Thunder Talk just get run over. If Thunder Talk aren't able to play with their own level of proactivity, they are fully reliant on JDG messing things up, which, you know, they might do, right? It can definitely get you a win here and there, but isn't necessarily enough to win you the series.
Participation award going over to Junhao with 4,500 damage. He had one good play. It was up on that top side, that counter attack that saved Keshi. That was the moment that I thought, like, oh, Thunder Talk are going to get right back on the horse. Things are going to be good. And things were not good, Bloxer.
Nope.
Not good at all.
9% damage as the 5.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Game. Oh my god.
That's pretty rough. Vampire continuing to be the best true support in the LPL by not taking any kills this game, the least amount of kills out of any support between him and Perukia going into the series today. So the supportiest support award going over to him. This was the best play that Thunder Talk made all game.
Yeah, literally the ideal, and they still have a bit of a weird tempered fate right here that potentially cuts them off from being able to make more things happen. Monkey's able to get involved in this game, and I find it a little bit tricky in this one to particularly point to one specific member of JDG that had just a completely insane pop-off performance, right? Xiao, who looks really good during the early stages, Junji is able to find some things, Honkyu's pretty good, Gala has the world's chillest game on the Sivir that you can imagine, right? But it's just Thunder Talk not doing anything that really punishes.
Yeah, and this really gives us a conundrum for player of the game, right? Because you have a lot of options here. Obviously, Xiaoshu, in the counter matchup, he did go down a lot of CS. However, he did get a solo kill. He also had a lot of moments where he was able to force Keshi off and kind of keep things pretty even, didn't let Keshi run away with the game. Junja made that first gank happen, had some pretty solid ultimates, just feels like a pretty standard Maokai game. Honkyu went in a couple times, got a couple kills, didn't really do crazy Akali things, and it's so hard to give a lot of credit over to a Karma because Karma's not a flashy support.
Yeah,
so
that's
I'm
my
kind of
thinking.
lost
My
on who to
thinking
give this
is-
to.
I'd
Maybe you
give
just
it to
go by
Vampire.
score line. Yeah, you just go by score line. You give it to Vampire. This guy didn't die.
Yep.
0-0-14.
Yeah.
Clearly just did the job that he
deaths.
needed to do.
Yes. That would be my thinking, right? If I had a vote right here, I'd be voting for Vampire because he did exactly what his job was in every situation. He was keeping people alive, he was tethering people up, he was being annoying with the poke early on, right? He did everything that was asked of him. I just don't see that being the case in this situation. I think it's far more likely that we're going to end up with an MVP going over to Junjia or Xiaohu or maybe even Honkyu. I think maybe... Ooh... I think maybe Zhao gets it?
He could. There are quite a few players on this team that I would be okay with. I think if he gave it to Honkyu or Gala, I'm less enthused about it. Gala really didn't have a signature Sivir fight, nor did Honkyu have a signature Akali fight.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty down for everybody else, really.
Yeah.
Maybe Xiaoshu gets a little bit more love because he was in a counter matchup.
True. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's something that the AI they've got analyzing these games is really looking for. Did you win in a matchup you're not supposed to? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see on that one. It really was one of the most overall team victories that we've seen, but also overall team losses that we've seen from the other squad. That's now both of these games, right? Thundertalk mess a game up horribly in game 2, JDG mess a game up horribly in game number 1. I'd love to see some real clean back and forth League of Legends out of these guys in game number 3, and it is going to go to Xiaoshu. I think that makes sense, right? It was sort of the best looking scoreline overall, like you said, counter matchup that could potentially have been a bit rough for him, and he did play pretty well overall.
Yeah, not too bad. It was a terror in a lot of these team fights. If I think back to a lot of these fights and I had to pick one player that consistently made an impact when they were there, I think it would have to be Xiaoshu. So this is a solid MVP. His 6th MVP of the split for a while. He was the only guy getting MVPs over on the side of JDG. So it's nice to see him return to his MVP winning ways, Bloxer.
Absolutely, it is nice to see, and let's see if he's going to be able to keep it up in this next game.